Hello there and welcome to EPA Insights. I'm Brad from the assessment team here at Highfield, and today I'm going to talk to you about the Improvement Technician Standard, IFATE versions 1.0 and 1.1, Assessment Plan APO 5. We want to be able to share with you what we've learned since assessing on this standard. This includes an analysis of the grades and looking at any common trends, whilst gaining assessor feedback and customer feedback where we may have had queries in the past. We hope that you find this useful. Firstly, we are going to touch on the multiple choice exam. Then we are going to take a closer look at the other assessment methods, including the presentation of the project report and questioning and the professional discussion, finishing off with some general hints and tips for the endpoint assessment. The exam is ideally taken by e-assessment, and this can be invigilated by the assessor, the employer, or a remote invigilation service. The exam lasts 40 minutes, consisting of 40 questions, worth 1 mark each. To gain a pass, the apprentice needs to at least achieve 10 marks, 20 marks for a merit, and 30 marks for a distinction. The exam accounted for 64% of the total failed assessments that we analysed. This highlights the importance of carrying out mock exams. There are mock papers available within the EPA resource section on our website for learners to utilise. Moving on to the presentation of the project report and questioning. The project report must be submitted to Highfield within 1 month following Gateway for the assessor to review. This report must then be presented to the assessor at the endpoint assessment in a 40-minute presentation, which will be followed by a 35-minute questions and answers session. The report should be concise, visual summary, and typically be 1 to 3 slides of A3 and include any supporting documents in an annex, which also must be submitted along with the written submission form. The project report must follow each step of one of the recognised problem-solving methodologies, and a representative of the employer must be present during the presentation, but only for the purpose of confirming validity of the information provided. We analysed a proportion of the learners' reports where learners had failed to pass the presentation of the project and Q&A. For each assessment criteria, you can see the proportion of learners who have either passed, failed, or not even been able to attempt the assessment criteria. The high proportion of brown means that the learners in the main did not have the opportunity to attempt the criteria. We expect this to happen with distinction criteria, where there was not the opportunity to stretch to these due to time constraints. We've identified other criteria where there are higher rates of learners who have attempted the criteria but unfortunately not passed. These seem to be the most common causes of failure within the presentation and question and answer section, which we'll go through on the next slides. Let's look at some of the criteria that learners are attempting but not passing, starting with the most common failed pass criteria in the presentation. PR2. Follow the steps of a recognised problem-solving methodology, with a clear flow from one step to another, and supported by the application, interpretation of appropriate Lean, Six Sigma, project and change management tools. The trap here is not following a recognised methodology. In order to prepare, ensure that the project method fully evidences the phase of define, measure, analyse, improve and control regardless of the methodology chosen, and ensure that there is a clear descriptor of the Lean tools, principles that have been used with rationale. PR3. Demonstrate data-backed decision-making to support definition, measurement, analysis and improvement. So the trap here is not fully explaining the type of study required for data analysis or explaining data types or their sampling strategy. In order to prepare, explain the method used to collect data and how the data informed decision making. PR1. Show business benefit to the apprentice's employer. The trap here is submitting a project that has not been fully implemented. In order to prepare, ensure the projects are complete and implemented. Clearly articulate how the project has been evaluated and measured. Moving on to the merit and distinction criteria within the presentation. PR7 clearly explains how the outputs of each tool are used to inform the next step. The trap, not explaining how outputs from tools informs next tool selection around experimentation and optimization. Prepare to explain in detail a range of tool outcomes where data-backed decision-making supports experimentation and optimization. PR8. takes the opportunity to share and or replicate the improvements made to one other area or system where there are differences in the solution or controls required to deliver successful outcomes. The trap here is there is no evidence of sharing or replication in other areas, or clear examples of leverage. Prepare in this section by evidencing in the project how the improvement has been shared or adapted. PR9 takes the opportunity to share and or replicate the improvements made to one other area or system where there are differences in the baseline metrics. The trap here, similar to the merit criteria, but for this distinction, the metrics must be different. In order to prepare, ensure that the project has been shared to an area where differing metrics are measured. Moving on to the professional discussion. The discussion will last for 50 minutes and is a structured discussion between the apprentice and the assessor that the employer must be present for the purpose of confirming the validity of the information provided. The professional discussion will explore aspects of work, including how it was carried out, discuss how the apprentice would behave in specific scenarios, ask questions in relation to personal development and reflection. Apprentices must bring a copy of their log that evidences training that they have carried out, learning and workshops that they have attended throughout the apprenticeship. The log is not directly assessed, but must be provided at the same time as the project report for the assessor to review and must be brought to the assessment. Please note, if the learner doesn't bring a copy of their log to the discussion or the employer representative is not present, the discussion will not be able to go ahead. We analysed the proportion of the learner reports where learners had failed to pass the professional discussion. For each assessment criteria, you can see the proportion of learners who have either passed, failed, or not even been able to attempt the assessment criteria. The high proportion of brown means that learners in the main did not have the opportunity to attempt the criteria. We expect this to happen with the distinction criteria, where there was no opportunity to stretch these due to time constraints. We've identified other criteria where there are higher rates of learners who have attempted the criteria but unfortunately not passed these. These seem to be most common causes of failure within the professional discussion, which we'll take a look at in the next slide. Some apprentices struggle to give specific examples in the professional discussion. It is important that learners provide real examples of their activities they have undertaken during their time and programme and use their log to support these. On the screen, you can see some examples of these. Just to note, attention to detail, sources of information, organisational values, critical evaluation, challenging safety concerns, and more. So let's take a look at some of those criteria that are most commonly not passed within the professional discussion, starting with the pass criteria. PD9. Explain the approach to project management, including identification and approach to risks. The trap on this one is that the risks don't relate to the project management. Prepare by using risk analysis tools and principles and explain why these are important. PD4 explains how they act on feedback, reflect on performance, and have showed desire for learning. The trap on this one is providing insufficient detail of how they have proactively sought after feedback and acted upon it. Prepare by this one, give specific examples where feedback has been sought and what actions were taken. PD10, engaged others with change management. The trap with this one, not demonstrating how they have engaged with others. Prepare with this one by providing examples, engaging others and assessing change impact. And the merit and distinction criteria with the highest fail rates. PD13 uses own knowledge and skills to support colleagues in their application of improvement tools. The trap, not sharing lessons learned and not developing others. To prepare, use methods such as conducting a coaching session with colleagues on the actual tool that they are going to use in the project and use this as an actual piece of evidence to discuss. PD14 takes the opportunity to co-deliver training to upskill colleagues. The trap, providing examples of coaching rather than training. And to prepare, ensure answers given is relating to the training and not coaching and give detailed responses of the steps taken to plan and deliver. PD15 critically evaluates their improvement journey and identifies recommendations for improvement and change. The trap, not providing consideration of positive aspects of their learning journey alongside the negative aspects. Prepare by giving an example of learning points, lessons learned, and recommendations they have made for change. Moving on to the general hints and tips. Starting with EPA reports, all learners will receive an EPA report. Use the report to analyse for your learners which particular areas of the assessment criteria they have struggled on. This will help you to continuously improve the quality of your learning programmes. There are lots of helpful resources available, including EPA kits, with amplification to further describe the areas that you will be assessed. Think about documents for learners to help them prepare for the endpoint assessment, and these are all available to download from our website. And last, but certainly not least, mock assessments. These are a key tool at any level to help learners build confidence and practice. Ideally, carry out a mock exam, presentation with Q&A and professional discussion with someone that they are not familiar with to help prepare for the big day. And that's all from me. We hope you found this insightful. Thank you for watching.